Today, we are going on a kind of global investigation. We're going to uncover some of the world's most successful and, yeah, most dangerous travelers. And no, I'm not talking about spies. I'm talking about silent invaders.
You know that feeling when a friend comes over and then they just don't leave? It gets a little awkward, right? Well, imagine that, but instead of a friend, it's an animal or a plant in a brand new country. The result can be a huge ecosystem-changing problem.
So, here's our game plan for today. First up, we'll get a solid idea of what an invasive species actually is. Then, we'll meet some of these unwanted guests on land, dive into some trouble happening in the water, and even see how plants can stage a green takeover. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see why this is such a big deal. You ready? Let's do this.
Okay, let's jump right in. To really get what's going on with these silent invaders, we all need to be on the same page. So let's start with the most important question. What exactly is an invasive species?
So here's the official definition, but let's break it down. An invasive species is basically any living thing, an animal, a plant, whatever, that gets moved to a place it doesn't belong and then starts causing a ton of trouble. We're talking serious harm to the local environment, the economy, or sometimes even to us.
And there are really two parts to this that you gotta remember. First, these species don't just wander into new countries on their own. Nope, people are the ones who move them, whether it's on purpose or completely by accident. And second, they're not just moving in and keeping to themselves. They cause real serious problems.
All right, now that we know the definition, let's meet some of these troublemakers in person. We're going to start on land with a few critters you would definitely not want to find hopping or slithering through your backyard.
Our first stop is Australia. And we're here to talk about a bumpy, tough-looking amphibian that has a really bad reputation down under, the cane toad.
Now, believe it or not, the cane toad was actually brought to Australia on purpose. It's originally from Central America. But way back in the 1930s, some farmers thought it would be a brilliant idea to bring them in to eat beetles that were destroying their sugarcane crops. The problem? Oh, the plan backfired big time.
It turns out the toads couldn't have cared less about the beetles, but they absolutely loved Australia. See, they have this poisonous skin, so any local animal, a snake, a lizard that tries to eat one, well, it dies. Plus, these toads have a massive appetite and eat pretty much anything they can fit in their mouths, stealing food from all the native animals. So yeah, what started as a helpful guest turned into a total nightmare.
Okay, from the land down under, we are jetting over to the swamps of Florida in the US. And here, our next invader is a literal monster of a snake, the Burmese python.
So these snakes are native to Southeast Asia. How in the world did they end up in Florida? Well, it's the pet trade. People bought them when they were small, thinking they were cool pets. But guess what? They don't stay small. They get huge. And when they got too big to handle, some owners just let them go in the wild. Now they're not just surviving in the warm Everglades, they are thriving.
And their impact? It's been absolutely devastating. Just look at this chart. You can see here the populations of animals like raccoons and rabbits have just plummeted. We're talking drops of over 90% in some areas. These pythons are eating everything and are completely changing the food web of the Everglades. It's wild.
All right, let's leave the land behind for a minute and dive into our rivers, lakes, and oceans. Because this whole invasive species problem isn't just happening on dry land, it's happening under the water too. Our first aquatic invader is a tiny little creature that really proves that size does not matter when it comes to destruction. Say hello to the zebra mussel. It's only about the size of your fingernail, but its impact is absolutely massive.
So these little guys are from Europe, and they basically hitched a ride over to North America in the ballast water of big cargo ships. And they multiply like crazy, forming these super dense colonies that completely clog up water pipes for power plants and cities, which, as you can imagine, is a huge problem. They also filter so much water that they steal food from native fish and mussels.
Next up, we've got an invader that's as beautiful as it is deadly. This is the lionfish. I mean, look at it. With those long, flowing fins and bold stripes, it's stunning. But don't let those good looks fool you. This fish is a serious predator.
Lionfish are originally from the Pacific Ocean, but somehow they've invaded the Atlantic and the Caribbean. And in their new home, they're the new bullies on the reef. The local fish have no idea what they are, so they have no natural enemies. Because of that, their population has just exploded, and they're just gobbling up all the small native fish. But, and this is my favorite part of the story, people figured out that lionfish are actually delicious. So now there are fishing competitions and restaurants that serve them, turning this huge environmental problem into a tasty solution.
So we've met toads, snakes, mussels, and fish. But some of the most aggressive invaders out there are silent, green, and they're growing right under our feet. Yep, we're talking about plants.
And this is a worldwide issue. In the United States, there's a plant called kudzu. They call it the vine that ate the South because it grows so fast, it literally swallows forests and buildings. Over in Europe, you have Japanese knotweed, which is so tough it can actually grow through concrete and damage the foundations of houses. And in parts of Africa and Asia, water hyacinth forms these thick green mats on top of rivers, making it impossible for boats to get through.
So we've met a whole bunch of these invaders today, but this isn't just a collection of weird animal and plant stories. There's a much, much bigger lesson here. So what's the big picture? Why does this all matter so much?
Well, we've seen how these silent invaders can cause chaos everywhere. A snake in Florida, a tiny mussel in a water pipe, a vine covering a forest. The impact is incredibly real, and it's incredibly serious.
This quote really just hits the nail on the head. When species cross borders, the results can be dramatic. The natural world, it has this delicate balance. And when we start moving species around, we're messing with that balance. And the consequences, as we've seen, can be pretty disastrous.
So here's the bottom line. Every place on Earth has its own special web of life that's been developing for thousands, even millions of years. And protecting that balance is really important. We have to be super careful about what we move from one place to another, because the health of our local ecosystems and our whole planet really depends on it.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. Every part of the world, probably even where you live, has its own invasive species story. So, next time you're outside, take a closer look around. You might be surprised to find out what silent invaders are living in your own neighborhood. Thanks so much for joining me.